Welcome to Podsdale, where we explore the stories that make Scottsdale truly special. I'm your host, Holly Walter from the city's Office of Communication. Join me as we learn what makes Scottsdale tick. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Welcome. Today's episode, we are talking about the importance of recycling and composting in our city, and we're going to highlight some areas where we are doing that and some innovative city initiatives, including how we recycle in the city, our food waste diversion education campaign, and talk through some other key points of how we can promote food waste diversion. Today, my guests are Gina Azima, Outreach Manager with Solid Waste Services, and JD Hill, who's the co-owner and founder of R.City. Welcome to you both. I'm going to start with you, Gina. Let's talk about your position as an Outreach Manager for Solid Waste Services. What is that exactly? What do you do?
Yeah, so my main focus is providing education and outreach regarding our services for the City of Scottsdale Solid Waste. We focus on trash, recycling, brush and bulk, as well as our appointment-based services like HHW, appliances, electronics, and of course, moving boxes to get all of that cardboard out of the trash and not hanging out in people's homes after they just moved into our wonderful city.
Perfect. And for those who may not know, HHW is Household Hazardous Waste,
yes,
right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So today, though, we are focusing on some of the city's recycling initiatives. Can you share the current recycling programs in the city?
Yes. So I'm going to start off with the most familiar one for everybody. It's that wonderful mauve or pink can at their homes. That is our mixed recyclables. And so we pick that up curbside once a week from all of our residents, something that is a single stream. So we focus on cardboard, plastic, a couple of other things too would be like your to-go containers, your milk jugs, glass as well are all acceptable items, paper products like magazines and newspapers. And then, of course, we have some other diversion opportunities too. Our electronics recycling, that is a on-site based event that we do at our North Courtyard 4 times a year. It's wonderful. That's information that you can find on our website for the dates. So our next one that's coming up is in October. It's a wonderful opportunity to keep electronics not only out of the landfill, but also out of your trash or your recycling container. We have our household hazardous waste, which is another opportunity to divert chemicals out of your container. Common things are latex paint, your pool chemicals, your normal household chemicals that you use to, say, clean the bathroom, or pesticides or anything like that you might put in the backyard. And then, of course, we have our appliances, which we will come and pick up a refrigerator or a dishwasher or something that you've replaced recently. For new residents to the city of Scottsdale, we take all of that clean cardboard and recycle it.
That's excellent. And speaking of the household hazardous waste collection, that's so important because really we don't want those things going into the trash and going into our solid waste trucks. That can cause a real problem, right?
Yes. The most common cause from household hazardous waste chemicals ending up in the truck is a truck fire, which is extremely dangerous to our staff and the equipment that we're using to haul that waste away. And so for us, the other thing too is latex paint is another common item. And a lot of people always forget that when you put a gallon of paint in the back of a truck and we go to crush it, that paint ends up all over your street. And so that is something that's key and important to us to keep out of your container. The other thing that I want to emphasize too is it's not just chemicals. It's those lithium-ion batteries, and that's something that is extremely important because it could be something that hasn't necessarily started to spark in our truck, but once it gets to that MRF, that's the most common thing that shuts down a MRF is a lithium-ion battery fire.
Okay, and what is a MRF?
I apologize. It is the Materials Recovery Facility, and that's where we take all of our recycling.
Okay. And then going back to our lovely mauve containers, we talked about some of the things that can go into that barrel. I know sometimes there's a lot of confusion about what goes in there and what doesn't. What are some of the things you don't want to put in the barrel?
Well, first things first is we do not want to see any plastic bags. So, it's a very common thing for residents to bag their recycling to carry it out to usually that pink container. The problem with those plastic bags, it doesn't matter if it's a grocery bag or a trash bag bag or even thin film plastic, which is like cling wrap or saran wrap that you might cover food, that gets gunked up in the material recovery facilities equipment. And so what happens is then it shuts down the entire system and it requires staff to get into that equipment to pull it out. So that takes time away from processing material, and it's hazardous to staff as well to be able to have to pull that material out.
And where can someone go to find out, look at a list of what can go in there and what can't?
Oh, yeah. So if you go to the scottsdaleaz.gov website and you search recycling, it'll be the first link that you will see on that page, and it'll take you directly to all the information that you can and can't put in your can. We also have a wonderful tool on our website, which is the Recycle Right Wizard, and that provides you, so if you're ever unsure about an item, you can actually search it in that toolbar, and it'll tell you exactly what you should do to dispose of that item.
And I've used that. It works great. What are some of the success stories and significant milestones we have achieved through recycling in the city?
Well, I will say this. One of our proudest moments is the fact that we achieve a 27% diversion rate. So that's the total weight of everything that we pull from your home. So your black and your pink recycling can. And so when we recycle, it's against that total weight. And 27% is very high, especially compared to other cities. The other thing that we're extremely proud of is that our recycling is clean. So we see little to no contamination on a regular basis. And so our goal is always to achieve that, anything less than 15%. And so those common things that will come through contamination, it's food waste or residue, liquids, things like that. And so that's something that we're extremely proud of, because that's something that they're not seeing at the MRF. And it's not contaminating our loads, which means that material can go on to become something else and doesn't end up in the landfill.
Excellent. So it sounds like we have a lot of residents doing what they should be doing and giving us a hand in that area. What are some of the challenges that we face with recycling currently?
So the first things first, it is the Amazon effect, and it is unbroken down boxes and shipping material. So we see a lot of styrofoam, we see a lot of bubble wrap, we see a lot of tape, a lot of material that can't go into our recycling. And so for us, when we see that there's unbroken down boxes, they will get clogged in the container.
Okay.
And what happens is that all the material that's below that unbroken down box doesn't get collected. And so it's pretty common for residents to see half uncollected containers. And so that's a struggle for us. The other big thing about the Amazon effect is it takes a lot of time to crunch down unbroken down boxes. So it takes up valuable space and time and affects our efficiency in collecting your material.
Point to know for that is when you have a delivery and you have a box, you want to tear off the tape, remove the packaging material, and make sure you break that box down before you put it into your recycling bin.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, what are some other actionable tips and strategies for residents to improve our recycling efforts?
Yes. So first things first is, I'm going to go back to my original statement, is if you're ever unsure about an item, please look it up at that recyclewizard.com, or I'm sorry, the Recycle Wizard
At Scottsdale AZ.
at Scottsdale AZ. When you search recycling, the biggest thing for us is making sure that it's an item that we accept first and foremost. The next thing is going to be making sure that there is no food residue, right? It's a very common thing where we see people throw their leftovers along with the container. And so the other thing that we also see as a problem is bulky items. So we'll see furniture, we'll see pool covers, we'll see things that are really just not acceptable as a part of that recycling. And so we refer to that as wishful recycling. And most people think, well, somebody will come or it'll end up getting taken out, as a part of the process for recycling material and everything like that. But in reality, it causes a huge problem and it contaminates the load when we're picking up all of the recycling in the area.
So those large items should go brush and bulk pickup, right? And put that out at your curb.
Exactly. Yes. And so that's something that we can take, and also making sure that if you have brush material, so, you've trimmed your trees, your palm trees, everything like that, that you do keep those separate from your bulky material, about 3 feet apart.
Let's talk about the importance of community participation. I know part of your work as an outreach manager is educating residents, right, on what we have to offer and how they can make our recycling efforts even better. So why is that so important to do?
So the importance of that for us is active engagement. So we're continuing a conversation to keep them educated and up to date as much as possible as to what we have going on and what's going to help us be successful in diverting that material from landfill. We participate in quite a few of events, not just our Earth Day event. We try to get ourselves consistently in front of residents to make sure that they know and understand all of the resources that are available to them to be able to make the right choices when disposing of their materials at home.
And what are some ways that residents can get involved and make a difference in this effort?
Yes. So first things first is that get yourself as educated and up to speed and familiar with expectations and what needs to be done. And obviously, you can do that on our website at thescottsdaleaz.gov. And you can go to solid waste or you can research through all of our pages. And then the next thing would be is talking about it with all of your friends and family. So the more that they're educated about, hey, you don't throw lithium-ion batteries into your recycling container, that benefits not only our city, that benefits any city that they may live in as well, because something like that is affecting all of us, not just ours. The other thing would be, too, is actively participating and vocalizing in things that they would like to see more of, or giving us feedback on, hey, I noticed this, or any ways that we can improve. We always encourage that conversation as well.
And this starts early. I know we talk to students, and sometimes they're the best messengers, right? They'll tell their family members what they should or shouldn't be doing when it comes to recycling. But that's great. They're our littlest ambassadors, but they do a very good job doing that. So something new that we are focusing on is food waste diversion, and we have an education campaign. Can you talk about the campaign?
Yeah, so food waste diversion has become a significant issue nationwide, gaining visibility through activism and efforts from governmental and nonprofit groups. So I thought we'd maybe talk about some numbers. According to a 2019 EPA report, the U.S. produces about 120 billion pounds of food waste annually, with the average resident contributing approximately 325 pounds a year. So we got to ask, what is food waste? Right? So sources of food waste, that includes unsold food, which is usually coming from like grocery stores and restaurants and things like that. Plate waste, which is what's left over or uneaten on a plate after a meal. And finally, cooking scraps, all of those scraps from your food prep. It's the tops of the vegetables, it's the moldy parts that you might have cut off, those kinds of things. The EPA has created a wasted food scale that demonstrates the most preferred ways to reduce your food waste to the least preferred. And so what we wanted to focus on in our education was those top 5 preferred methods, which are reducing waste at the source, which starts with everybody at home, followed by diversion through donations or upcycling. So you're going to be donating to food banks or emergency assistance agencies. Of course, animal feed, which is you take that uneaten food to give to like a local farm or animal sanctuary, and they feed it to the animals. And then lastly, composting, which can be done in your own backyard, at a local garden, or even curbside services. So Solid Waste really wanted to provide a resource that supports the city's goals and offer a lot more information for our residents and what they can do to address this issue at home. To educate residents, we provide free and paid options on food waste diversion. We really wanted to highlight strategies such as like buying less at the grocery store, using what you have in your pantry and your refrigerator, as well as enjoying your leftovers and really getting family on board to kind of help with divert because it's really a group effort. And then, of course, at-home composting information. For another big step as a part of this program, we started to evaluate what we're doing at the city and how we can divert food waste in other areas. So like your staff offices and city-sponsored events. We started to collaborate with our large venues to identify opportunities to divert more material from the landfill. And we were able to find a local organization through Recycled City, and we collaborated on diverting our food waste from our events as well.
And some of those tips are great. I love it because purchasing just what you need in terms of food and then eating your leftovers, they'll save you a little bit of money too if you do those things.
Yes, exactly. And so on average, when most people have started to shift their habits at home, it has been recorded that they average anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 in savings a year just by being conscientious about what they purchase, what they cook, how they cook, and everything like that.
And I know it's something that we started doing in the city building that I work in at the Community Design Studio. That's why I'm so glad we have JD here, because he came in to talk to our entire team and explain how food diversion works and where we should put what. And we've been doing that in our building, and it's been very successful so far.
Yes, and I will give a moment of pride as well. We've also just started implementing composting at the Vista del Camino Food Bank as well. In their first 4 days of having the composting services, we've been able to divert over 908 pounds in 4 days.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really good. Well, let's turn the time over and chat with JD now. JD, can you talk about R.City, how it began, and what interested you in this line of work and in promoting food waste diversion?
Well, I went to ASU, W.P. Carey School of Business. I got a finance degree and a degree in entrepreneurship. And I really wanted to be a farmer when I graduated. It was 2010. Small farming is a really difficult business. You know, small farms are going away. Farms are getting bigger and bigger. They're farther and farther away from us. And the biggest problem with small farming is they can't sell. So it's very difficult for small farms to sell. They can't sell produce wholesale because they can't compete on price. Food service, consistency of the menu, food costs, very prohibitive for small farming. And then you have farmers markets where you can bring your produce there and only sell half of it, and you're out the other half. So it's a very difficult business. When I learned about the 5-gallon bucket business, the curbside collection, I was like, that's the solution to the problems of the food system.
And how does that work when you talk about the 5-gallon collection? What is that exactly?
The 5-gallon bucket business started popping up in every big city across the United States in 2010. I learned about it in 2012. Implemented it here in Scottsdale and Valley-wide in 2013. And what it is we provide a household, multifamily or single family, a 5-gallon bucket with a sealable lid. And the household puts all their banana peels, coffee grounds, napkins, paper towels, leftover uneaten food into the bin throughout the week. And then just like trash and recycling, on a certain day, we come by and we switch out the 5-gallon bucket with a clean one. All that food waste goes down to our farm where we compost it ourselves, and then we use all the compost on the farm. We do not sell the compost. And if you want the compost back for your garden, we give it back to you for free.
That's great. And so it's kind of a full circle thing, it sounds like, because you're composting that material and then you're using it to grow more food.
That's right.
Where do you sell the fruit and vegetables?
So we do direct to consumer on our website. You can sign up for a one-time farm box delivery. You don't have to be a compost customer to have us deliver the vegetables to you. Or you can sign up for a subscription where every week you'll get $10 of produce or you'll get $30 of produce. And we have a large variety of options for households.
And you said that this service is available in Scottsdale and other Valley cities. So about how long have you been doing this?
11 years now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how many residents are participating in this program in Scottsdale? Do you have a rough number of participants?
We're over 550 now. 6 months ago, when the food waste awareness campaign kicked off, we were at 453. So we've already increased about 25% in 1 year. It took me 10 years to get to 453 residents in Scottsdale. So we're doing really, really good this year.
Excellent. And, from your perspective, why should someone consider using some type of similar food waste diversion? Why is that important in the household?
Well, for me, I want a food system. I want local food. I want organic food. I want food that comes from 10, 15 miles away. I want the security of knowing that our community has food production. And our model is eliminating food waste at every step of the supply chain. So when you buy from our farm, our farm doesn't have any food waste because our model is one where the food waste revenue we get, we pay for all the overhead costs of a small farm, and the farmer who I contract with doesn't have any overhead costs. And then I buy 100% of the food the farmer grows, so the farmer has no food waste. And then in the distribution, since the produce is coming straight from the farm directly to your home, there's really not an opportunity for produce to spoil or get damaged. And then if once it arrives at your house, if there is any food waste, you put it back into the bucket and it comes back to our farm. So this model is eliminating food waste at every spot in the supply chain.
And it sounds like it's fairly, it's not too difficult to implement that in your home, right? Just throwing those items into a bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of composting, sometimes you picture that container sitting on your countertop, but there are a lot of other options now for composting in addition to the bucket composter. JD, can you share what some of those things are?
Yeah. So I've been doing this for 10, 11 years now, and it's really difficult to get households to participate in food waste diversion because of the ick factor. So 6 months ago, I made a partnership. It's the first in the country with a company called Mill Industries. It's a startup out of San Francisco. They're the founders of Nest, the Google Home products. So they developed this kitchen composter. Looks like a very nice trash can, has a foot pedal on it. And instead of depositing the food straight into the bucket, you use this kitchen composter, put your foot on the pedal, throw your banana peel, your leftovers. You can easily scrape your plate into the bin. And then every night, just at a certain time, you set the bin on your phone to say 8 p.m. And then every night at 8 p.m., the bin starts up and it knows how much food waste you had put in the bin. And then it grinds and dries out all the food. So when you wake up in the morning, it looks like a powder, like a dried coffee ground substance, has no smell. The household can continue to add to the Mill kitchen composter bin for 2 weeks, all the way up to a whole month before they even have to empty the bin. And during that whole time, you're never going to have a smell, a bug. It takes out all the problems. I've been using the bin at my house for the last 9 months, and it's really helped out a lot with household participation. So I have a partner, I have a 6-year-old kid, opening and closing the 5-gallon bucket a couple times a day isn't that appealing to my household. So when I got the Mill bin, I saw a huge uptick in them participating. And then, we have thousands of customers valley-wide where now over 10% of them already have one of these Mill kitchen composters in their house. And we're hearing the same thing from those households that, hey, my husband actually is doing this now. This is great.
That's amazing. It sounds fun. You can program it right off your phone. That's amazing. And so, but the bucket is still available, so you have options.
Right. So we have the 5-gallon bucket, and right now I just got some funding, and I am giving away 100 free 3-month bucket subscriptions to the first 100 households in Scottsdale. You go to our website, www.r.city, click on the free trial button, mention the Scottsdale podcast in the referred by section, and you'll get enrolled in the free 3 months.
Excellent. So Podsdale is your reference, and it's a great way to get started for someone who wants to jump into this initiative and begin diverting food waste in their own home. And JD, any other closing thoughts from you? It was great to have you on the show today, too.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing your service. And where can listeners go and find out more?
www.r.city. R.City.
Fantastic. Well, it was just great to cover all of our recycling and composting programs, and we encourage listeners to get involved. And you can find out more, as we mentioned several times, at scottsdaleaz.gov and search solid waste. Thank you again, Gina and JD, for your contributions and for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode of Podsdale. If you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences with us by emailing communications@scottsdaleaz.gov. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, this is Holly Walter signing off and inviting you to be part of the Scottsdale story.